Welcome to my channel, my name is Nick, and whatever you're watching, I'm making videos about. Lake Mungo is an Australian mockumentary horror film about a family grieving after their teenage daughter Alice is found drowned in a dam. Feeling a presence in their home, the Palmer family utilizes the help of a documentary crew to track the events leading up to Alice's mysterious death. Lake Mungo is one of few films that transcend the trappings of found footage horror and manages to pack its own unique kind of creepy punch. It's recently gotten the attention that it finally deserves over the last couple of years, and now that it's conveniently available to stream on Shudder as well as Amazon Prime, I have to strongly encourage you all to check it out. This is a film about grief, which makes it such a perfect fit for horror that you think you've seen it a million times. But this one does such a good job in feeling authentic, not just in terms of being a mockumentary, but also in terms of the emotion that it brings, because we really feel for this family. They're so lost and longing for closure, and the sadness isn't beaten into us. We're kind of just thrown into this tragedy as these characters are experiencing it, and the reason that it's engaging is because of the subtleties of the performance. There are so many small moments in this movie that really sell the sadness fueling the story. We have the father Russell, who buries himself in work to avoid the grief. The mother June becomes convinced that Alice didn't die and she's in fact out there alive somewhere. And the son Matthew, we can tell, is really struggling the most because he begins recording the house and taking pictures, and this is how we get this footage and these images of Alice haunting the Palmer house. So much of what makes this movie work and what makes it so creepy is the grainy camera footage. I feel like you couldn't duplicate this kind of scare factor again because we've simply moved on and the technology is too good. But Lake Mungo captures this just right, at least if you were alive back when this quality was the norm. But I do have to say that while these parts make up most of the scares in the film, the images don't really hold up watching on a large TV in HD. And a lot of these scenes were fixed on one part of a room or a hallway somewhere in the house, and then we zoom in and see a figure lurking somewhere in the background. And every single time, as soon as we would see the image, I'm like, oh, there's a guy over there. Oh yeah, that's what this movie does. And then it sort of zooms in and I'm like, I see it too, Lake Mungo. I sure do. It does lose some of its effect, but the atmosphere is still there. And that is what is most important, because Lake Mungo has an atmosphere for days. The whole thing feels like hanging out in a morgue or something. I mean, we start out with this family, and they're so sad and broken in the beginning, and it builds this feeling of sadness that evolves into a sense of dread that overtakes the story. As a mood piece, Lake Mungo is everything. It mixes the real-world horrors of grief with the supernatural horrors of being haunted, and this blend ends up keeping the story grounded in a way that could make almost anyone believe in ghosts. Now let's get into some minor spoilers, and if you haven't seen the movie already, well, just go do it. Come on. Like I said, there are so many small moments that really make this movie work for me. And there's one in particular where June, the mother, she undergoes hypnosis to try and recall anything she can about her daughter Alice. And she ends up remembering seeing the ghost of her daughter sitting in her room and looking sad. The idea of a mother not only dealing with the death of her young daughter, but also thinking of her daughter being sad in death, it was just crushing. One of the most interesting developments in the film is when we learn that the brother Matthew has actually been doctoring the images to include Alice in them. It was Matthew all along. Again, it keeps us intrigued by keeping that level of real-world investigation linked to the supernatural elements. This is when we begin discovering more about Alice's life, and I have to say this is my biggest problem with the movie. They find a sex tape that Alice made with some older married neighbors, and it just kind of feels like they wanted to have some big crazy secret for Alice to be keeping while also providing some what the fuck factor. And while it does that, it also doesn't really amount to anything at the end of the day. I have to take a moment to talk about the technical achievements in this film because we're not used to seeing movies like this actually being well made. They're usually trying to look choppy and raw, but I thought Lake Mungo was really well edited, including the sound editing and mixing, and the acting just across the board was way better than expected. The performance performances felt genuine, and that's what makes the movie as impactful as it is. Lake Mungo is an emotionally powerful horror film that uses the mockumentary format to great effect in order to create a believable family tale of grief and terror. And you better stick around all the way till the end of those credits in order to soak up all of the creepy imagery. As for the concept, I'm gonna give Lake Mungo a 3 out of 5 because I don't really think the idea of a family being haunted is all that new or interesting, but the way that this one goes about telling that story is definitely above average. For execution, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. It is damn near close to perfect in this category because I think this is a really special and unique film, whether you want to classify it as a mockumentary or a supernatural horror or any kind of box that you try to put this film in. It subverts expectations and does its own thing, all for the better. I'll admit this is not the most rewatchable film, but I still found myself pulled into the plot progression. The unfolding of events tied with the solid character work make this a memorable favorite. For entertainment value, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. As for my official grade, I'm giving Lake Mungo a 4 out of 5. Again, I think it is truly a special film that's worth watching at least once. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it as always. Let me know what you thought of Lake Mungo. Do you think it's overhyped, or do you think it's just now finally getting the attention that it deserves? If you've been around on my channel for a little bit, yes, I am trying to bring back the Shudder reviews. I'm still gonna make Shudder Day a thing. I don't care. It's my fetch. Learn it, live it, love it. And if you're not already subscribed, well, make sure you do and hit the bell and the notifications. That way you actually end up seeing my videos again. You can feel free to follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd to see more of what I'm watching. That's it for this video, but I won't stop you from watching another.